Three, two, one, and we're live.
This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanics Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're also streaming live right now on YouTube. That's going to be posted later if you want to catch it. And while you're on YouTube checking it out, man, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to my channel too. So let's talk about what we're going to discuss today. I picked out the 5 habits of high impact managers. 5 habits of high impact managers. And let me give you those real quick. Habit number 1, setting their new employees up for success. Number 2, being an inspiring leader. Number 3, being a high impact coach. Number 4, creating a high performance culture. And number 5, retaining their best employees. Those are the 5 habits we're going to talk about today. Now, first, let's talk about what a high impact manager is. Let me describe the ones that I've worked with in the past and what I'm modeling my discussion on today. Those are the ones that had the best continuous sales improvements year after year after year. They were the managers, the leaders that I worked with that had the least amount of problems, not a lot of issues, low drama, if you will. They were super low maintenance. But the most important part of being a high impact manager, in my estimation, is they had the best people working for them. And those best people very often would be developed and promoted to higher positions. In my career, or back in my past, the companies I worked for were always growing and opening new locations. And the single most important ingredient of a successful growth organization is having the right talent in place. So these high impact managers I worked with, they provided the great next group of managers and executives that fueled that growth successfully. And they were almost able to clone their own best practices and standards and put that into others. Or as the saying goes, light another candle. They took all their great habits, ingrained them into the people they were developing within their location, their organization, and then that carried on as that person moved up, that next person moved up the ladder. Great created great. They simply got the most out of people and made things just look easy from my own perspective. They never seemed to break much of a sweat. They didn't have to work as hard as some of the other managers that weren't as effective as these guys. And as I built my coaching and leadership and management training business with the Alternative Board and Allen Training Centers, we've identified these 5 habits as the essential behaviors that all the best managers have in common. And as I've said before on previous shows, leaders can be trained. I get that question all the time. Yes, you can be trained to be a leader. And managers must manage, but they also have to lead. And these great high impact managers balanced both very well. They had the proper balance. So let's talk about the 5 habits. And before I get too much further into it, I want to put a bit of a plug in here. September the 9th, Seal Beach, California, Old Ranch Country Club. I'm having a fantastic seminar that will cover some of these items and more. Day and a half seminar, collective leadership development training workshop. Day and a half of working on yourself to be a more effective leader, manager, business owner, entrepreneur, emerging manager. We'll be able to give you in that day and a half some of the skills, the talent, the knowledge that you need to advance your career and make the most out of your business. And part of that is learning the right way to manage and lead people. And understand too that everything that I talk about is real world. I don't take this stuff out of a book. I've personally used and utilized these habits to run highly successful organizations back in my corporate career. And now I take everything I learned and I've observed and I picked up on, and I teach and mentor others the right way to perform them. And I got to tell you, I personally get kind of offended and put off when I see some professor or some Tony Robbins type out there spouting leadership and management advice when they've never ran a friggin' company. All they are is scholars. They're theoretical. They've never been on the front line managing a P&L, hiring people, managing people, leading people, meeting goals, facing problems, overcoming problems and challenges. That's the big differentiator with my approach and almost everybody else out there. Mine's all based on experience. So let's get to the habits. I'll get off my soapbox. Let's get on the habits. Habit number 1, setting new employees up for success. You only get one chance to make a great first impression, as they say, and as an employer, you really need to concern yourself with getting someone connected and impressed starting day 1. Because managers often do all the right things in hiring new employees, but immediately thereafter, they get them on board day 1, week 1, and they treat that new employee as if they've been working for that company for a very long time. Ineffective managers, they just don't think about the importance of these first few days and weeks of employees joining you. And when these new employees start performing poorly, they start externalizing it. And they take little ownership of any of the shortfalls in this new person's performance. They call it a bad hire. There's air quotes going on right there. They're a bad hire. I just made a mistake hiring somebody. Well, maybe you did, but if you're not following this process of setting new employees up for success, onboarding new employees properly, it's a vital first step. You're not setting them up for success. It's a vital, vital, vital first step. You got to have a detailed plan in place, one that's put in place ahead of time to make sure that you're making this great first impression. Without a plan for this integration for your new employees, you're limiting the amount of success that this new person can potentially have. I promise you that. Promise you that. That first impression starts again on day 1. And here's some of the things it should include. You need to start an employee on a day where there's not a lot of chaos in your office. And if Mondays are chaotic, if you've got a lot of work going on, there's lots of busyness going on, and you may not have all the time you need on that first day to devote to your new employee, do it on a different
30
day.
seconds.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's all set. Those are all okay. You got to do that to ensure that they get the proper attention that they need. So we're going to go to break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk about the rest of what their first day should look like. We'll be right back.
Essential Nutrients LLC.
Okay, great. Sorry, I think I started the intro too early and then I tried to stop it.
That's all right. That's all right. We're
Cool.
good.
I could try to edit that out somewhere.
You got
Cool.
happy fingers there.
All right. Yeah, right.
Essential Nutrients LLC.
It's a little slip.
Whether you're
Yeah.
a professional.
Well, that sounded great. No dropouts or anything.
Good. So
Yeah.
I think we got all the bits taken care
Cool.
of there. Thank you.
And there
Yeah,
is
of course.
no pills. Health requires commitment, exercise, good diet, proper supplementation, and action. So take action.
I'll leave you to YouTube if you're doing that today.
Yeah, let me talk to my YouTube guys here 1 second.
Cool.
Liquids.com. Don't put off your health any longer. Take
Hey,
essential.
YouTube. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you guys joining me again today. We're talking about the 5 habits of high-impact managers. There's 24 of them, actually. There's 24 actual habits that we've identified. But I'm going to talk about the ones that I feel like that I've seen through the years have the most importance in gaining traction, success within a manager's realm of responsibility.
Taking the reader around
There's
the
a
world.
lot of them. It
Colorful
differs
kaleido-
from organization to organization, but I got to tell you, I think the ones, these 5 that I'm talking about today, are universal.
stills nature and
It'd be hard for me to understand all the different industries that I've worked in, and
Back in
I
20.
train and that sort of thing. These 5 work everywhere. We're getting ready to come back from break.
and
Thanks for
all of
joining
our
me today. Subscribe while you're on there.
own
Thanks.
unique history. To learn more about Patricia Daily Life,
All right, in 10.
www.literarylady.com and
And 5,
www.patricialife.com.
4, 3,
Email her at
2,
life@gmail.com.
1, and we're back.
This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanics Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're also streaming live right now on YouTube. I appreciate all of my audience out there. We're talking about the 5 habits of high-impact managers, and we're talking about setting new employees up for success, what needs to happen on day 1. I'm going to finish that up, and we'll move on to some other habits. So we're talking about starting them on the right day. And on that first day, whether it's a Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day it is, whatever day is going to be the best day for you to devote the most of attention to them, one of the first things you need to do is take them around and introduce them to other employees, which sounds like a no-brainer to me, but I can't tell you how many times new employees start with companies and they have to go meet everybody themselves. Awkward. That's just not the way to bring somebody into your organization. Day 1, the hiring manager should take this new employee out to lunch or introduce them to a long-term employee. They will take them out, socialize with them a little bit. Another thing that's really important on day 1 is review your org chart. Make sure they know who's who works for who, the synergies within the organization. And this next one is critical, is reviewing job descriptions. They've got to know what's expected. That's foundational. And if they know from day 1, minute 1, what's expected of them, you're setting them up for success right away. So make sure that your folks know their job description. Another cool thing to do is assign them a mentor. I tend to put an E in mentor at the end. Mentor. I've got to be careful about that. It's assign a mentor. And at CarMax, this was generally another key reason why employee success there was so high and turnover was so low. But find somebody that is a key employee, sets the right example, has been loyal to you, does a great job, and make sure that mentor knows what is expected of them in this role. And assigning a mentor to a new employee, they need to meet them probably on day 1. And this can take place, and the mentoring should take place in the first 30 to 90 days. If it's a managerial level employee, that may take up to a year of having a mentor, somebody to go to ask questions, that's safe, is knowledgeable, that can be there for them when they need them, and also train them in whatever role they need to be trained in. They can, the byproduct of the mentor program is that mentor program can serve as a leadership development exercise for the mentor. The team members you have that are mentors often can move up the career ladder, and this is a great test of their ability to develop and communicate with people. And I'm going to add this: if you're a baby boomer or a Gen Xer that's managing a large group of millennials, I must tell you, this step is crucial. Your millennial employees will really appreciate this and relate to this. And on the mentor side, if you've got mentors who are in the under 35 group, they'll generally love being challenged with the additional responsibility of being a mentor. Your younger new hires will appreciate it. Your mentors will appreciate it. You're developing people. A mentor program has so many positive side effects. Let them know what your mission and vision is for the company, what your culture is. And by the way, how would you describe your culture? We're going to talk about that in a little bit, because that is one of the high impact manager habits, is having a high performance culture, but a great exercise is for you to understand and be able to describe what your culture is, what your vision is, what your vision is for the company, and more importantly, check with your team and see if they would say the same thing. I can tell you it's a crucial step to being highly successful as an organization, as a team, as a company. It's so much so that in a recent survey of executives, 80% of those executives rated the employee experience as very important or important. However, their actions didn't match their opinions, because only 22% of those same executives reported that their companies were excellent at building a great culture. So they're not working on their culture. They know it's important, and this is just one of those things that so many companies just get caught up in the busyness of running a company. They're working in their business, not on their business. And this is one of the things that drops off the huge list of important tasks and responsibilities that executives and managers have, is creating, defining, building a culture. 59% of those survey respondents reported back that they're not ready, or only somewhat ready, to start addressing the employee engagement issues within their organization. They know they need to, they're just not ready to do it because they've got other things staying in their way. So, and some people get turned off by this whole culture thing, and I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I've worked in great cultures, I've worked in bad cultures, and I can tell you they personally affect you in either a very positive or negative way. And it's not some touchy-feely mumbo jumbo. And talk about some descriptors of culture. It's collaboration, innovation, agility, wellness, work environment. Those aren't touchy-feely. Those are just important. So let's talk about number 2, and that's becoming an inspiring leader. If you want to be a high-impact leader, you got to, first of all, set a great example. You've got to walk the talk. You've got to set a great example. You've got to set an example for yourself that others can follow. And that example is a high standard for building a great and enduring organization. There's lots of different leadership styles, but certain basic skill sets must be applied if you want to be inspirational. Inspirational leaders, they motivate themselves to higher levels of performance. They help employees create a positive work atmosphere. There's an old saying that says, you were made a leader, you weren't given a crown. And unfortunately, many managers go into their new role without this knowledge and think they've been given this crown to go be the boss of everybody. And you got this huge, awesome responsibility of bringing the best out in others, but you haven't been given the skill set or the priority to go do so. Inspirational leaders have a resilient mindset. They focus on what needs to be done to succeed.
30 seconds.
They don't let collateral coming in and take them off their game plan. They got to believe in themselves. They got to be resilient. They got to get knocked down and get back up. Your people are watching you to do that. And you can't be a preacher. This isn't about being Billy Graham. They're doers, and they guide others to succeed. We're going to go to a break now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about being an inspiring coach, a high-impact coach. Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to hear about that. We'll be right back.
Horses.
Okay, great.
Present, past,
Still
and
sounding
future,
good?
all in one.
Absolutely.
Wild,
Yay!
domestic,
All right.
and healing.
Right.
For everyone. Betty Hames knows this and has put her horses to good use with Nature Connect Equine Coaching. Her mission is to help people affected by the loss of hope and trust in their lives, and to rediscover the wonders of nature through nature-connected learning, so they can rebuild their lives and live peacefully with newfound hope, trust, and joy. Betty Hames is also a certified elite life coach, a Washington State certified counselor, and chemical dependency professional. She is passionate about partnering nature with healing, and through horses, she sees amazing
So
results.
while we're on break,
in lives that
glad you guys are joining me today. Thanks for being there. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. If you like this video, to punch on that like button. That helps me a ton. I use these YouTube videos for educational purposes. I don't make any money off this stuff. It's hard to make any money off of YouTube. This is just my way to express my viewpoints and beliefs and maybe help some others out there get a little better at what they do. That's my passion in life. And if I can help you, or you can share this video with somebody else that you feel like can benefit from this, please do. I'd appreciate that. I'd be honored. And being a high impact
30
manager
seconds.
or coach is super important to your success in your career. So hopefully you're getting something out of this. We're getting ready to go back from break, and we'll cover some more. Thanks for being there today.
Created a plan that works. Stress no more. Let Sharon Ball open the door. Sign up for a complimentary life reinvention
All right, back in
consultation
10.
today at tinyurl.com/get
And
started
5,
free. For
4,
more of what life has
3,
in store.
2, and we're back.
This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanic Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're also live on YouTube, and it's being recorded for later listening and watching. Thanks for being here. I'm excited about the topic we're talking about today, which is the 5 habits of high impact managers. We're talking about being an inspiring leader, not to be a preacher. Great leaders are not necessarily preachers. They gain respect and inspiration through their activities, not necessarily their words or their beliefs. They lead by example. And when we're talking about leading by example, this is so crucial, and I've talked about this before, but don't try to be something you're not, something or someone you're not, because people see right through that. You got to know your strengths, and more importantly, this is the hard part, especially for these newer emerging managers or leaders, you got to admit your shortcomings. You know, it could either be skill or knowledge, but don't try to mask or act like you're knowledgeable about something when you're really not. You'll just look like a fool. Just be you, and if you have a shortfall in skill or knowledge, hire someone or find someone on your team who can fill that gap. Be open about it. Or you may want to go out and get some education or training on that area, but let people know that you're working on that. Don't try to be something you're not. Now, on the other hand, if it's a personality shortfall, there's skills and there's traits. I can't train traits, I can train skills. And if it's a personality shortfall, you can't train that. If, for example, in my own case, if you have a lack of ability to be detailed, you can't change that. You can compensate. And if I have to get detailed, man, I can hunker down and focus on something for a brief amount of time, but it is so unnatural for me. No amount of training is going to fix that. Another great tool, if you want to do this, is take a skills assessment or a DISC assessment or a strengths finder, so that you know exactly what your strengths and opportunities are, and just don't try to be something that you're not. You got another one. It's just, you just got to do a self-examination. And here's another self-examination. Do I accept responsibility when things go wrong? Or do I blame others? If your inclination is and your actions exhibit that when things go wrong, that you lash out at others or you blame others or you point fingers at other departments or people who are working for you, game over. Bad move. You got to accept that blame, accept that responsibility, because it is your responsibility. It's always your fault. Or, on the plus side, in the end, if something goes well, that's partially your fault too. That's good news for you, but you can't take the full credit for it. Always give the credit to your team. That helps you build your team. And if you're building teams and motivating your team members and thinking strategically rather than being sidetracked by the idea of the week, those ideas of the week, these newest, greatest, shiny baubles of ideas, will screw you up every time. If you've got an entrepreneur mindset and you're coming in on a regular basis with great ideas and putting them into place right away without some discussion and testing, you're screwing up. Don't do that. You're eroding your leadership. You got to stay focused. I train a 7-day rule on any new ideas. Anybody comes up with a new idea, you got to give it 7 days. 7 days of discussion and testing before you ever put it into place. Don't do it. Inspiration goes to setting the right goals, setting clear goals using the SMART method: specific, measurable, agreed upon, realistic, time bound. Those goals, those type of goals, communicate and collaborate with your team on the tactics and strategies it's going to take to achieve it. There's got to be a number. There's got to be a metric attached. They've got to be able to keep score, whether it's sales or improved customer service scores or quality improvement, turnover. It's going to give them something to shoot for. It's going to give them comfort. It's going to give them pride. It's going to give them security. Think about one goal that you have right now for your subordinates. Why do they want it, and how are you tracking it? And what will happen when they achieve it? What are you planning on doing to reward them for achieving that? Another thing, too, is don't confuse activity with achievement. I just had this conversation a couple days ago. So, just being busy, somebody working hard as part of a goal is not a suitable goal. They've got to achieve something. That's the measurable part of the SMART goal. And also avoid creating goals or objectives that are activity focused, not achievement focused. Keep that metric in there. So, and here's a really cool one. Man, you'll get a lot of traction out of this. Do you know what the goals your people have for themselves? What do they want out of life? What do they want out of working for you? What do they want to achieve? Now, first, they're going to get blown away that you sat down and even asked. But more importantly, as a high impact leader, you should want to know. Because if you can align their goals with the job and show the job they have, and you show them how the more successful they are in their current position and how that can lead them to their personal vision, you have a great mindset and partnership in place, and they're really going to appreciate that. That's inspiration. That's motivational to them. And I talked a little bit about recognition and celebration. Always celebrate the wins and avoid just making it cash. Cash is it's going to go in the grocery cart. It's going to go to the restaurant. It's going to pay a bill. It doesn't live on. If you can give them an object, whether it's a plaque or a trophy or some kind of recognition, a watch, whatever it is, you give them that, it's going to live on. And every time they look at it, they're going to remember that success and that great feeling they had. And that's the sort of inspiration you need to provide your people to keep them going. I've got trophies sitting out in my office right now that I've had for decades. And I remember the time I got it every time my eyes flash across it. So that's just a great way to make sure you're inspiring and making it an evergreen or a long-term recognition program. And I'm going to just give you one little warning here, and I'm going to move on to the next habit. Avoid arbitrary or discretionary bonuses. They're worthless. Just go throw your money in the river and watch it float away. Bonuses or incentives have always got to be tied to some kind of goal accomplishment. You've got to be able to see some kind of ROI on it. And it needs to be monthly or quarterly, never annual. Because annual, if it's annual, it's too long. As soon as they get some kind of failure early on, they give up and you're done. If you can restart on a monthly, you can't restart on an annual. Keep it short term. When we come back from break, we're going to talk about being a high impact coach. Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to hear this. We'll be right back.
Introducing
All right, great.
BetterHomeAndGarden.com. That's www.betterhomeandgarden.com with just the letter N in Better Home and Garden. BetterHomeAndGarden.com offers you the highest quality products on the market that are environmentally safe and effective, and to make them available to you at the lowest possible prices. BetterHomeAndGarden.com understands that kind of creativity and do-it-yourself attitude. Thus, we developed our website, BetterHomeAndGarden.com. BetterHomeAndGarden.com offers you the following products right online: bath, bedding, collectibles, craft, sewing and hobby, food and beverage, furniture, home decor, kitchen and dining, lamps and lighting, large appliances, musical instruments, outdoor cooking, patio items, pet supplies, plant and garden, rug and floor covering, small appliances, travel and luggage, and so much more. Better Home and Garden is an online retailer offering a wide variety of high-quality brand-name merchandise at discount prices. Our service is personal and we aim to please. Visit us at www.betterhomeandgarden.com. Make your home your own.
Unleash the obstacles that bind you with certified professional coach Joanne Charette, a master practitioner in energy leadership. Joanne can help you break through personal and professional barriers and guide you to a higher level of empowerment and fulfillment. Passionate and dedicated, Joanne engages with her clients on a mutual journey. Her dynamic energy will motivate you to move forward as you partner on a venture to greater results. Isn't it time to make a breakthrough and commit to live the life you deserve? Invest in yourself and let Joanne Charette be the catalyst to the realization of your dreams.
All right, we'll be back in about 25 seconds, Bob.
Joanne is also
Thank
a
you,
space
sir.
coach, using social media and Skype to work with anyone, anywhere around the world. Contact Joanne Charette today at 819-360-3266 or email her at actionrealization@live.ca.
All right, in 10.
360-3266. Now is
And
your time.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're back.
This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanic Show here on BBM Global Network, TuneIn Radio. We're also streaming live on YouTube right now, so join us there. Appreciate it if you wouldn't mind sharing this video later on. We're talking about the 5 habits of high-impact managers and being an inspirational leader as one of those habits. And I'm going to touch on just a couple more, and then I'm going to get to the next one. And I want to stay on inspiration here 1 minute. Many people, many managers and leaders avoid conflict like the plague, and that is a huge issue. Inspirational leaders, they handle this conflict, this stress, these stressful situations without losing focus and direction. They don't overreact, I should say, to individual events. Leadership is about coping with change, coping with challenges, dealing with challenges. You can't delay firing someone or indefinitely putting off addressing somebody's performance. Don't allow fear, false expectations appearing real, limit your leadership ability. Because very often, having that conversation with a problem employee, letting them know what their challenge is, what they're not doing well, and what they need to do to change it. Well, that thing that most people fear, if there's some kind of confrontation, almost never happens. In fact, it's just the opposite. The opposite happens in that these people that are struggling, nobody comes to work wanting to fail. They want to be given the direction to improve. And if you're not giving them that direction, letting them know where they stand, you're failing them. And you got to have that conversation. And the more you have that conversation, the more you'll understand that your whole fear of some kind of big blow up in a conversation with somebody that's struggling just never happens. Never happens. I've worked with a lot of managers and executives in my life that have worked for me. And I can tell you, I prided myself through the years of letting them know where they stood. And they didn't always like those conversations, but they appreciated the benefits of those conversations. And that's why through all the years, my executive teams, my managers outperformed and outshined every one of my counterparts. It was uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the more comfortable it will be. I promise you. So now we're going to talk about being a high-impact coach. Now, what's coaching to you? Coaching isn't telling, by the way. Coaching is more about asking questions than telling. It's getting the person who you're coaching to get the most out of them, to get them out of their comfort zone, out of their current habits. As the old saying goes, no pain, no gain. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. And part of the role of a coach is to get your people uncomfortable. You got to get them into places that they've never been before, doing things that they've never done before, and saying and confronting things that they've avoided in the past. And whether you're a health coach or a career coach or whatever kind of coach you are, football coach, you've got to get people to do things that they're not currently doing. If you're not in some kind of pain, you're not being challenged, you're not growing. You got to get your direct reports to do things they've never done. They got to be uncomfortable. So let's look at some coaching skills. Employees perform better in helping achieve their organizational objectives if they're coached properly. They move to a level that they may not have been able to achieve in the past without some coaching. By having a culture of strong coaching within your organization, it improves morale and culture. You improve work habits, their work habits. You'll find that meetings and deadlines all take on a quality that you've never seen before. And most importantly, it takes on an impact of lasting change, not only for your organization, what you're responsible for, but in their own lives. And isn't that a great testament to you as a boss, as a leader, to be able to influence lives to the positive? It's always been inspiring to me to go be a good coach. And remember that coaches, the number one coaching skill, coaches ask questions. You ask questions to facilitate the processing of an issue, because you may ask them questions that they've never asked themselves. They've never thought of. They've got a blind spot. We all have our blind spots, and we come at things with our own mindset. Good coaches break through those blind spots, those paradigms. And always remember, you'll have to make them do things they've never done before, which is breaking habits. And breaking habits and creating new habits is very difficult, but that's what a coach does. You got to help them to think that they're making the right decision. They've got to believe that they're making a good decision on their own, that they're not doing it for you, they're doing it for themselves. You got to ask questions that probe, clarify, because those probing questions drive to the core of the issue. Clarifying questions help them understand what the issue is. And once they understand it, they can start taking the right action on it. Now, also keep in mind, we're attracted to and more comfortable with people who mirror our personalities. So you've got to match your communication, your questions, with the person you're coaching. Not one size fits all. You've got to mirror the body language, the tone of voice, the type of communicator they are with your own communication. You've got to mirror them. They can't mirror you. This allows some barriers to be removed in that communication. So keep your coaching style in mind in mirroring their approach. Now we're going to move on to the fourth habit, creating a high-performance culture. Let's talk about some of the benefits of a great organizational culture. It encourages everything and everyone in it to fulfill their desires around the tasks they complete for their jobs. You know, a workplace with high morale and motivation
30 seconds.
gets high productivity. A great culture builds a more engaged and productive workforce with a good balance between what we do and how we do it. So positive. It's a positive factor in bringing about greater impact by employees in the organization. A good organizational culture it's a magnet to attracting good people to your organization too. Always keep that in mind. It helps you hire better and more people in the future. We're going to go to another break now. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about creating this all-important high-performance culture, and then how to retain your best employees. So don't go anywhere. You're going to want to hear this. We'll be right back.
There are artists, and then there's Alice Asmar. This award-winning artist.
All right, great
Her
one.
entire life devoted to her
Still
artistic
sounding good, right?
and has had a lifelong
Yes,
fascination with
absolutely.
American Indians of the
Problem
Southwest
solved.
United States.
Oh
Her
yeah.
book, Dance to the Great Spirit, showcases her drawings and paintings inspired by sacred rituals of the Pueblo Indians, and 4 of her lithographs are in permanent collection at the National Museum of American History and the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. She is one of 4 artists in the United States to win a Woolley Fellowship for study in Paris at l'École des Beaux-Arts and has been featured in numerous publications. She's exhibited at the world's most prestigious museums and galleries and recently won a 20-year service award from from the Burbank City Council and the inaugural art competition of the Foundation of the United States in Paris.
Visit www.asmarart.com, www.aliceasmarinternational.com, and email Alice at aliceasmar@aol.com.
Are you looking for employment and live in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties? Jobs Annex is the place for you. Are you an employer looking to fill a position or quite a few positions in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties? Jobs Annex.
So do some of these commercials, sounds like you're running a local commercial. Do you tailor that to wherever your host is?
And employers.
Say that again.
Do you tailor some of these commercials to wherever your host is? Because it sounded like a couple of those were local.
Oh, I kind of play them at random, to be honest. I didn't know. Well, this one says Orange County or something like that.
Yeah, that's where I am. So,
Oh wow, yeah, that's just coincidence, I guess.
well, and the one before that was in Burbank, which is just outside of Los
Sorry,
Angeles.
sorry, Vaughn. I don't want to interrupt you. We'll be back in 5. All right, and 4, 3, 2, and we're back.
This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanics Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're also on YouTube right now. Join us there. Take a look. Share it if you want to. I'd appreciate it. We're talking about the 5 habits of high-impact managers and creating a high-performance culture. And I'm going to spend a little time on this culture part. Not a whole lot of time because we don't have a whole lot of time left. But we're going to talk about the culture because it is so critically important to the success of your company. And as I mentioned before we went to break, it's a magnet for attracting great people. It not only keeps people, it retains the people, it gets the results you're looking for within your organization. It's so much easier to continuing to grow and improve your business when you got the same people that you're not the same people doing the job. You're not having to bring new people in all the time and retrain them. That slows down your productivity. Their level of competency is very, very high. So retaining people is also part of what we're going to talk about on how to do that as an organization. But a culture is a huge aid to being able to retain your best employees. I can tell you that a lot of companies stop at the starting line on changing their culture. They realize they need to change the culture. They want to change the culture. They've even maybe brought in a consultant to change their culture. But if it doesn't start at the top, if it doesn't start with the CEO, the owner of the company, if they don't believe it, don't go anywhere. It's never going to go anywhere. Then it's just a bunch of words. You can't legislate this. You can't delegate this. You got to live it. But the good news is every culture can change. Now, the size of the company may require that it take longer. There was one of my first experiences in changing a culture involved a company that was in legal receivership. And that timeline for changing the culture was pretty slow because things were pretty bad. Companies don't go into receivership with a great culture in place. We had to undo a lot of bad stuff that was going in there. And it was just such a high level of entrenchment on the part of the employees to that old culture because they'd been there for years. And if they're deeply entrenched in that culture that you don't want, well, understand you're going to have to move slowly because organizational cultures develop it's an evolution. So the evolutionary process, you just don't go out and change it overnight, of course. And some of the changes I wanted to begin with, well, some of the things began overnight, but they were little things. They were little tiny wins. But it took almost a year before the bulk of the new culture was solidly in place. And it's, if there's an existing bad culture, just understand it's going to take you a while, but commit to it. It takes commitment. It takes commitment at the top. You got to walk it and talk it. And the degree to which you commit will determine how successful that change is going to take place and how soon. And make sure you put it in writing and you communicate the changes you're shooting for on a regular basis with all your employees. And some of the terms that you might want to think about as it describes a culture is the language that you use within the organization. The decision-making process, is it too slow? How open are you with your employees? You know, a great practice around culture and inspiring leadership is just spending time with your employees. Go to the break room, have lunch with them. Just hang out with them. I used to bring my lunch and dinner every day back when I ran stores a long time ago. And I just hang out with my employees at break. And we'd talk sports or TV or about their family or their weekend or whatever, you know, local politics, just so they would get to know me and I could get to know them a little bit. You just got to be open with them. They knew me. I became very accessible to them. They would come to me with problems. I'd find out about things so much faster. There's also part of what is a culture is stories and legends, and you know what the daily work practices look like within an organization. Those are all examples of a culture, good or bad. So let me talk about several steps you can take to create a high impact culture. You first need to identify your current culture. Then start identifying what you want to change in that culture. What do you want to make better, more engaging? And the next is get that new culture in writing. Write it down, collaborate with your team members get their input on what they'd like to see in that culture as well, what their desired organizational culture would be. And then once you have it written, present it to everybody, communicate it, post it so everybody can see it and be reminded of it on a regular basis, and then start walking the talk. But it's really important in order to identify your current culture is to get feedback from your direct reports. Hey, even think about going to your customers, your suppliers, and getting their opinion on what they think your culture is. You know, you can always interview employees in small groups and that sort of thing to get their feedback. Make it collaborative. I'm a huge fan of collaboration. And as you're talking about all this, you're describing your current culture. Think about what your employees are not discussing and what they should be discussing. And at some point, you got to take your ego out of it and be a little bit impartial as to what your culture really is. You know, I did this a few months ago with one of my clients. Is I took the CEO and I said, let's walk your physical location, because you can't see the forest for the trees. Let's go walk and see what a customer sees walking in your front door. Let's walk through the shop. Let's walk through your outside building. And let's really look at what everybody's seeing. You walk by it every day, you don't see it. You stopped seeing it years ago. And I got to tell you, it was a great exercise, because that physical plant, that physical part of the building, the cleanliness, the lack of maintenance, the clutter, the junk became very clear to me.
30 seconds.
So you got to walk around and see what's out there in your plant. It's a big part of culture. So we're going to come back from break in just a couple minutes. And when we come back, we're going to talk about retaining your best employees and how to do that. Where I'm going to tell you 4 or 5 ways to hang on to your best employees so you never have to replace them. Don't go anywhere. You are absolutely going to want to hear this. We'll be right back.
MJ Dommett is the owner
Okay,
of
great.
Be Empowered, a company whose specialty is empowering people to live their best
Yeah, this is
life
the
by
shortest
following their
segment
heart
coming up,
and
so I'll give you
accepting
the
themselves
2-minute warning and then
unconditionally.
30 seconds.
After studying and making personal changes, MJ now focuses on giving
Yeah, no
others
problem.
tools for self-empowerment. She provides individual and group workshops for people who are physically, emotionally, and spiritually blocked. Inspired by her work at Expect to Be Empowered, MJ authored the book Waves of Blue Light, Heal the Heart and Free the Soul, with accompanying empowerment cards. She is a Spirit Book of the Year Gold Medal Living Now Book Award winner. And her book is a #1 Amazon bestseller in spirituality and was a 2012 Gold Medal winner, recognized as the Living Now Spirit Book of the Year. An inspirational speaker, MJ will show you how you can repurpose every area of your life. Your life did not just happen to you, you chose it, which means you can change it. Visit www.expecttobeempowered.com or call 866-264-8024.
Attorney Renee Marie Smith is changing the way we sell real estate. She wrote a series of books called My Short Sale Guru Guides for all real estate practitioners. Whether you're a homeowner wanting to understand the process, an agent who has been handling short sales for years, or an industry analyst wanting to know how short sales impact your business, Renee uses her vast real estate experience to take a comprehensive look at the recent market phenomena while relaying it in an easy-to-understand format. Through her company, Smith Title Services, Renee has counseled thousands of short sales.
All right, we'll be back in 30 seconds, Vaughn.
In excess of 1,000 short sales.
Thank
Her
you.
knowledge is transformational for real estate professionals and laymen alike, and her live presentations provide people the opportunity to ask specific questions about their issues. Buy her books and schedule her to speak at your next event. Visit www.smithtitleservices.com.
About 10 seconds.
705-30428 or email her at renee at
And
smithtitleservices.com.
5,
Isn't
4,
it time to sell your
3,
property today?
2,
Learn the My Short Sale
1,
Guru
and we're
way.
back.
This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanics Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Also, check us out on YouTube right now. We're streaming live, and it'll be recorded for your enjoyment later. So we're talking about being a inspirational leader, setting your new employees up for success, being a great coach, setting up the right culture, and the last thing we're going to talk about is retaining your best employees. So I think it's self-explanatory, but let's just discuss it for a minute, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Why should we be focusing on employee retention? Well, the obvious reason, for me anyway, is when experienced employees leave you, you lose all their accumulated knowledge. And that knowledge, their competency, leads to greater contributions in most cases. Your organization benefits from all that knowledge and competency. And when you bring in new employees to take their place, it takes time for that new employee to ramp up and learn. And hanging on to your best employees, well, let me tell you, that's one of your most important management responsibilities. Let's look at the reason why some of your employees may leave. And they're generally it's because they have a bad boss. That's 50%. 50+% of the employees leave your organization because they don't like their boss. It's something their boss did or said. They felt unfairly treated, poorly communicated with. And then everything else is in small percentages. But the fact that you are listening to this show, you're watching this video, or you're listening to this show, shows me that you're interested in becoming a great boss or a better boss, and you're probably not one of those people that are a bad boss driving people away. Let's talk about recognition as a way to retain your employees. That's got to be part of your organization's DNA, is having a recognition plan, an employee of the month, work anniversaries, birthdays, plaques, trophies. Be creative with it. One organization bought a strongman toy and gave that to the employee of the month. Back at CarMax, we used to have a WWE championship belt that we put on the desk of all the best buyers that we had working for us in the organization. So it's just anything. It could be silly. It could be creative. It's funny, in a recent survey, I think it was by Gallup, of what reward or recognition employees thought was the most valuable, the one they appreciated the most for doing a good job, was pizza. So I can't tell you how important pizza is to joining your to driving engagement and making your employees feel recognized and appreciated. Buy them lunch every now and then. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. Making sure that you have recognition as part of your culture and organization. So today we talked about the 5 most important habits that's setting new employees up for success, becoming a motivational and inspiring leader, working on your coaching skills and being a high-impact coach, working on that culture, that high-impact performance culture, and doing all the right things to retain your employees. There's certain habits that all great managers have what I call high impact managers, and their results just outshine everybody else. They have maximized their workplace performance. And all the programs I work with, my seminars, again, I got one coming up September the 9th, Seal Beach,
30
California,
seconds.
Old Ranch Country Club, day and a half. Visit my website, vsigma.com, and there will be some information on that. I'd love to have you come and join me. You will benefit. It'll be a high impact investment. Follow me on Twitter. Check me out on YouTube, Von Sigma the Business Mechanic, LinkedIn. Communicate with me there. Visit my website, please, vsigma.com. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed this. Until next week, thank you all so much.
Okay, great show, Von.
Mechanic with your host,
Thank you for
Vaughn
saying
Sigma.
so.
If your business
Of course,
needs
yeah.
a good tune-up, let Vaughn get under the